All right, let's get this party started, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are here with Sophia and Adam. They're going to be talking about two types of plans that guide a nonprofit to success. And they're going to be sharing some incredibly valuable information with you today. So I'm glad you are here to join us. This will be taped and we will be sharing it, I believe. And if you have any questions afterwards, you are always welcome to reach out to Adam or Sophia directly. They'll put their contact information in the chat, or you can reach out to myself or Kelly Ann Serini here at the Hub, and we will be sure to connect you with them. Sophia Shaw and Adam Wolford are both the co-founders of PlanPerfect. They have been members of the Nonprofit Resource Hub now for, I believe, just over a year, and have really brought some valuable information to our nonprofits. And their job is to support you and what you're doing. So today they're going to talk about developing a strategic plan that informs real discussions, understanding enterprise risk management and scenario planning, turn plans into practical tools for governance, fundraising, and leadership alignment, and maintaining shared visibility across strategy, execution, and risk without added administrative burden. I think we would all be chomping at the bit to hear the part about the without added administrative burden. So I'm looking forward to hearing that too. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our hosts, Sophia Shaw and Adam Wolford. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so everyone can see, and we'll go ahead and get started. One thing Allison didn't cover is we'll also demo our system throughout this conversation as well, just to give you all a feel for who we are. So we just wanted to be transparent about that piece up front. It was in the description as well. But before we go any further, just wanted to give a huge thank you to our host, the Nonprofit Resource Hub, Allison, who you all just saw on the line, is one of our favorite partners. And we're really excited to be here in front of you all today. And then a little more context of who we are. My name is Adam Wolford. I'm one of the co-founders at PlanPerfect. I spent all of my career in the world of strategy and consulting in the past 5 years building technology in the nonprofit sector.
And I'm Sophia Shaw, and I've spent my entire career up till now in the nonprofit sector as a board chair, the CEO of the Chicago Botanic Garden, volunteer, and now working with Adam on PlanPerfect.
Awesome. So just to dive into what we'll cover today, so we're going to kind of start at the very end, which is just level setting with everybody on what a strategic plan and a risk plan looks like. And again, we'll use our system to explain this, but really the goal here is just to give an overview of what we're all talking about, just because I know that these terms can mean different things for different folks. Then we'll talk a little bit about why these strategic and risk plans matter. I know we have some folks on the line who have seen some of our presentations before. This will be familiar, but it's helpful just to get everyone on the same page. Then we'll talk about some of the problems with strategic and risk planning that we help solve. And then last but not least, we'll kind of walk through the phases of planning, and then we'll do our demo intermittently throughout those phases. And then we'll end at the very end with Q&A. But of course, if you have any questions throughout, feel free to dive in and just let us know if you need anything. So where we're going to start is really doing an overview of what strategic and risk plans look like from our perspective. So what you're looking at here on the screen is an example of a strategic plan. These are all the components that are typically included. It's the title of your plan that you can coalesce your organization around. It's the timeline of your plan. Depending on the size of your organization and the complexity, this can range anything from 6 months to 5 years. It really depends on the planning horizon that you set out front. An executive summary helps to give an overview of your plan, whether that be to a board member, a donor, a funder. And then these are all the components that are included. It's the history of your organization, the mission of your organization, which we all are very close to, the vision of your organization, some of the values that your organization operates against, and then really the bulk of it are the goals and the objectives. So these are the pieces that really explain how you're going to bring your mission, vision, and values ultimately to life. So when we mention strategic planning throughout this conversation, this is really what we're talking about. And then I also wanted to just quickly explain a little bit more clearly about risk planning as well. So these are the components we think about as part of a risk plan. You'll see this is quite a lengthy one. We spent some time building this out, but it's really thinking about the risk areas that your organization is exposed to. In this case, this is a fake nonprofit that works with the elderly to help them learn tech literacy. So that's why you'll see things here around cyber security. And then within these risk areas are the actual risks that your organization is exposed to, potential consequences that your organization could face if the risk were to come true or were to happen, the impact of that risk on your organization, the likelihood of it happening. Typically, you would assign an owner in your organization whose goal it is to help reduce this risk or to include control activities or mitigations as well. So this is really, again, just to level set when we talk about this, we're talking about both a strategic plan, which applies to your whole organization, as well as your enterprise risk plan, which also applies to your whole organization. And now we've covered the tactics, and I will turn it over to Sophia to kind of explain why all of this even matters to your organization.
It really matters to have a strategic plan as well as a risk plan because it aligns everybody on your team, gives clear focus and direction to where you're going. It's really hard to go anywhere or do anything together as a group if you don't know where you're going and why. It also builds much stronger fundraising skills and credibility. So every nonprofit, most nonprofits need to raise money in order to meet their impact goals. And so therefore, without a strategic plan, it becomes more difficult to fundraise. And with a strategic plan, everybody is able to have a much better conversation with donors and also build credibility with them to be able to have the goals that are promised actually be delivered. It improves decision making and efficiency 3 and 5 because when decisions need to be made, everybody is talking from the same playbook. Everybody understands what the goals are, and so therefore decision making is much less laborious. It improves accountability and measurement and allows you to be able to be much more nimble when things change. That's a number 6, adaptability and resilience. We saw a lot in COVID with people having strategic plans, but they were no longer at all relevant. And so having a plan that is living and agile allows you to have more adaptability in times of change. So here's some examples from some of the clients that we work with. This is Dare to Try. It's an organization in Chicago that works with adaptive sports and athletes with disabilities. And they were thinking about what they were going to do next in terms of fundraising and thinking about their future. They worked with us and talked about what the challenges were. And they had a big vision, but they didn't know how to realize it. So using our partnership, they made clear and measurable objectives, and they set a dashboard with us, which Adam will show you. They really worked with their staff and their board, and they linked all of their goals to budgets and fundraising plans. And the result was the board feeling much more confident in the staff's ability to realize the ambitions, which were to work more nationally as opposed to just locally. It boosted the board and donor confidence to a degree that they launched a capital campaign, which is now going very, very successfully. So it's a really good case study.
Awesome. And then a question that came in from Chad is, do you have any suggested sources to find grants that would cover the cost of strategic planning? I'll speak kind of more on the local level. We work with a lot of community foundations where there's a lot of opportunity to do growth grants or capacity building grants. Those are a really great resource, especially if you're pursuing doing strategic planning in-house with the support of our tool. Our tool is a lot more inexpensive than a consultant, so you don't need the tens of thousands of dollars you might typically be sourcing to help drive this work. So that's a really, really good opportunity. And then there's amazing tools out there, software tools like Instrumental. I'm sure there's other publicly available grant listing places that I'm not hyper aware of. But I think, once we'll cover the demo of our product in just to give you a feel, it can cost anywhere between $1,200 or $4,800 depending on the size of your organization. So it's just a lot more inexpensive and accessible than a traditional strategic planning process or grant.
Right. And
Sophia.
in addition to community foundations, you may actually look to the foundations you may already be working with or funding.
Mhm.
because I just was actually someplace this morning and there were some foundations there who said, wow, I could love to roll this out. We work with foundations in sometimes in cohorts. And the group's foundation will fund a number of their grantees to be able to work with us together.
Yeah, and Judy just mentioned TD Bank Foundation provides grants up to $1,000, so it could offset the costs, and they seem very generous in funding.
Mhm.
Thanks for the question, Chad. And if anybody else wants to use the Q&A or chat for questions, you can go ahead. All right, Sophia,
Right, and
back to
I
you.
didn't see, just to know that I'm in charge of the chat after I stop talking, you start talking more, and I can't see that question. I could saw the TD Bank
Yeah, it's
comment, but
in
not so.
the Q&A. So if you go to, it's at the bottom, there's a Q&A tool, but I can keep an eye on both. Honestly, it's
Okay.
on my account, my screen.
I'll say super. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it. So the problem with planning, and we could go on about the problems with planning, including the emotion that many people have when I talk about that I work with a strategic planning tool, is like putting their people's head in their hands and say it's so long, it's so hard, and it really doesn't have to be. It can be really really fun. It can be engaging and really put everybody on the same page. But we like to have our picture here with Sage, our owl friend, which shows some of the places where people get stuck. So in the strategic planning maze, you can see some of the reasons why that there's no clear ownership, there are too many priorities. It could be that there is a format that doesn't work with people, there's a leadership turnover. So, and importantly, that sometimes there's no framework for saying no. So new things pop in all the time. There are a number of reasons why strategic planning goes off the rails or never gets started, moreover. But we know that there is a way to change that. Most of it comes from a mindset change. We used to think of a strategic plan as a document, and now we can really think of it with the advances in technology as a living system. So, what used to be something that was created once with a, say 5-year time frame, now it can be updated regularly. So, the idea that we always had to be planning to plan every 5 years or so, now we want to add this idea that maybe you plan to make your plan once and then you have a really regular cadence of updating it. It used to just be owned by the board and maybe the senior team. And now we really think of a strategic plan as being something that's shared across the entire organization, which enriches everybody's understanding of where you're going and also enhances corporate culture, nonprofit culture. We used to have this, somebody told me this morning they had an 85-page strategic plan. Nobody's ever going to look at that ever again. And so that is a long static PDF. And now we have some great tools like the one we'll show you. And then you can see the rest of the list. But the most important one here is that the ones in the past used to be built for approval, and now they're built for actually execution, actually implementation, and meeting the goals of the organization. So what's missing from most strategic plans is this, what I've referred to earlier, is that this explicit ownership at every level, giving people a way of participating in the implementation of a plan and being able to track it and being able to then use a dashboard to not only understand where you may be falling short, but more interestingly, be able to celebrate when things are going well. Also, in a strategic plan of the past, it didn't really leave room for this enterprise risk management component. So what we've been trying to do is really integrate the idea of risk planning, scenario planning into the strategic planning process, especially post-COVID when we know that that caught us all quite unaware. So strategy and risk are all part of the same conversation. And the strategy is obviously defining where you're going and how you're going to get there. And then risk planning really defines what could prevent you from getting there. Treating them separately guarantees that you have blind spots, and treating them as one and the same and not only gives you the impetus and the understanding of your destination, but it also allows you to sleep at night when you know that you've really thought through as much as you possibly could.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia. So now we're going to dive kind of into the bulk of the presentation, which will be kind of walking all of you through our 7 phases of planning. And this can apply to either strategic planning or enterprise risk management planning. It's all somewhat of the same process, albeit the outputs are a little bit different. And while we go through this, we'll also kind of discuss some more case studies of how people have used our system, and then most importantly, show you how we support this in our system today. But without further ado, I'll just dive on in. So the first step here is really about planning to plan. Sophia mentioned this. This is really aligning your team. And we say leaders here, that could be board or staff leaders, on the purpose, scope, and the timeline before even getting into your strategic plan. This can give your board confidence that you understand the process of strategic planning and how you're planning to get there. And also give your staff awareness that this process will be happening and you're looking to listen to their voices as well. And then ultimately implement this across the organization. So traditionally, it's weeks of back and forth on emails to define process and goals. It could be waiting for the board meeting. The AI-enabled way, or what we'll show you in our system, is really about kicking off the agenda and scope settlements and statements, excuse me. Yes, use AI, but not ChatGPT. I love this, Jennifer. Yeah. So one thing to note is I'll mention AI throughout this conversation. Our model is a fine-tuned model ourselves. So we hold all your data securely. We have our privacy policy very publicly available on our website, as well as our terms and conditions. Our goal is not to allow your data to be publicly exposed to a large language model, but house it really in our system independently. So for all of those on the line who have cyber as a concern, which probably is every single one of you to some degree, rest assured that we protect your information. And then last but not least, obviously, we'll show you how you can use the system to activate this today. So I will quickly just jump into our part of the system that helps to drive this in the area we call the organizer. So these 6 phases that I'm about to cover in this conversation are reflected here. You'll see them, and then you'll also see them in the PowerPoint. And this is really a list of everything you could possibly do as part of each of these steps. It really gives you an everything plus the kitchen sink view of a strategic planning process. So you can go through this and start to identify the parts that you're going to partake in. For a lot of organizations, doing all of this can and will be overkill, but it at least gives you an understanding of everything that you possibly could do and helps you chart your course. So it's as simple as just adding it from this list. And then you're able to see each of these to-dos in the list here. You can assign a date. It will send you email reminders if things get overdue, like you'll see here. You can readjust these things if relevant. But really, this becomes the backbone of using our system insofar as driving your strategic planning process specifically. We're also working on a view of this for our enterprise risk management planning tool. It's a little bit newer, so we've had a little more time to get the strategic planning tool in motion, but it really helps, again, to drive your process. Everywhere you see a little green icon in our system, it is an area of our product that helps to support the action in the strategic planning process. And Sophia, I saw your hand. Did you have you're stuck on mute if you're...
I wanted to add that one of the things that you can also really think about when you're doing these the phases of planning to plan is thinking about where would be best to work with a consultant. So I know Adam mentioned briefly consultants before and how the software will help people save money, but also it'll help save money because it'll be able to have you use consultants with whom we work, and we really, really love working with consultants, but how to use them in the way that's best for them and best for you, because they can be a great coach, they can be great for philanthropy consulting, they can be great for strategic planning, but having that great consultant software combination is sometimes quite magical. And that in this phase, you can really think that part through.
Definitely. That's super helpful. I'm pretty sure there's a to-do in here somewhere around figuring out the support. So that's a great call out, Sophia. Thank you for sharing. And if there's any, we also have some consultants that use this with the bulk of their clients. And if there's any consultants on the line who want to chat about what that looks like, we're happy to talk offline about that as well. And just heading back to our deck, the next step is all about kind of environmental assessment, stakeholder input. This is sometimes called discovery. This is really enabling you to go gather context and voices to ground both either a risk plan or a strategic plan in real world needs. So traditionally, this was all manually done. Today, we can use our system to help support it. This is just an example of one of our clients, the Golisano Children's Museum of Naples, who used our system for their discovery. So some of the outputs they saw here is they turned hours of work into minutes. He collected over 300 plus survey responses across a multitude of different stakeholders, and he was able to kind of quickly cut the data and understand what each stakeholder group was concerned about or were excited about in their product. It can help to reduce biases. So I think one thing we hear about AI a lot is that it's actually biased in and of itself, which is true. However, so aren't people who are reviewing survey results. So what this can do is create a more level set sort of review of the data versus looking for information that you're trying to confirm. It's been really powerful to watch our clients be able to kind of get a raw read of the data from our system and then compare that against what's in their heads. And then most importantly for me is really providing the ability to hear all voices and the ability both through the system as well as based on the bandwidth of some of our clients. This quote is really beautiful. It's about you can be the richest family in town or the poorest, but as soon as you come in the building, you're the same. But they have different perspectives, and knowing each means you can serve them in different ways. So it can be really powerful as you're thinking about building out your plan. So I'll just jump back into our system and show you how we support discovery today. So right now there in our system, this is the discover view. There's kind of two ways to get data in the system. You can upload data. So that's what this import tool is all about. You can think of uploading things here such as focus group notes, transcripts from Zoom calls or conversations, previous strategic plans, any market data that you might have relevant to your plan. You really can think about getting as much information in here as possible. The system will then go through and analyze it and understand what is going to be relevant to your strategic plan or maybe what is not. We've tried to trick this a handful of times with random data, and it usually just says this data is not relevant to the plan. So it's really a powerful way, again, of getting all of your information in one place. And then the other way that we support is through our survey tool here. So this allows you to launch surveys from the system, either anonymously or attributed. You can invite people in to take surveys. We really didn't recreate the wheel here on the survey. We do have recommended questions specific to your stakeholder groups because we do serve the nonprofit sector and strategic planning specifically. But really where we add our magic is in reviewing the results of the survey. So you're able to see insights, themes, and insights about all of the survey results you receive. And then really we get into recommendations for your strategic plan based on the feedback you received. And then ultimately you can take a look at areas that might need further investigation. Again, we are well aware that hallucination or making up data or confirming what you're saying is definitely a risk when using AI. So we in our system made sure that we fine-tuned in that if the bot hears something that they're not able to make a conclusion about or don't have enough information, they'll let you know in this last section, which basically just explains what you need to do as a leader to further augment the data here, or at least acknowledge it. The only other piece of our survey tool, which is really nice, is that we enable our users to also chat with our backend model as well after they submit their survey results. So for those of you who maybe don't have the capacity to do interviews or focus groups or all the other pieces that may be included, this is your way of augmenting that survey data by enabling our system to ask follow-up questions based on the survey results that users put in here. Nothing really beats the in-person experience, but this is definitely a nice way to augment it if you don't have the capacity to support. And then last but not least, the magical part of it, again, we have the AI insights across all of the data in the system. So you could imagine diving into a survey and understanding what your donors are thinking, and then zooming back out and seeing what everyone in your organization is thinking. And then last but certainly not least is our magic SWOT analysis tool. This takes a look at all the data that you've uploaded in the system. So previous plans, any data that you've uploaded, survey results, focus groups, et cetera, and then helps to define a SWOT. You can change this by stakeholder type. So you're able to regenerate the analysis in real time to get an understanding of not only what maybe all of your organization is saying, but also what your specific board members are thinking about your organization, which gives you a really unique opportunity to compare and contrast not only the results to help you inform your plan, but also as you think about execution and what each group might need to help them best implement your plan. that's probably the most data heavy part of the system. So we've made it through the hardest part. And now we're on to kind of the next bucket. So the next is really all about drafting either plan. So I'll show you both how drafting works for a strategic plan in our system, as well as for an enterprise risk management plan. Again, this has been done outside of systems for forever, but this is really a nice way to do it in a system so that you're able to get the support of our backend model and all that wonderful data that you've uploaded into the system to help inform your plan. Here's another beautiful example of one of our clients called Grow Our Faith. They're based out of Kenya and work with young children, helping to provide housing and fresh water. She is the founder of a smaller nonprofit. She knew what she needed to include in her plan, and she was able to do it overnight on her cell phone. So it took her hours to kind of to come up with this and organize the information that was in her head in a meaningful way. You'll see here she's the vision bearer, so it helps take it from vision to action. And then last but not least is we put leaders in the driver's seat, and we arm them with the right tools, especially for leaders who maybe don't have the experience to go in and create a plan themselves. So what this looks like in practice, again, is our build section of the system. So there's two builders. The first is your strategic plan builder. So all of those components I talked about at the very beginning of the session, the timeline, the history, the mission, the vision, the values, and the goals and objectives are all defined in this section. All of these sections all work the same. Essentially, you can think of this as any other AI you've ever used, but instead of you asking it questions, it's asking you questions and then helping to scope or consolidate all that data against what's not only you're saying in the chat, but also what's been uploaded in the system. So you're able to work alongside our AI. You'll see it's analyzing and processing and helping to generate responses here. I won't take you through drafting a whole one of these just because we have limited time here. But you could imagine that it works alongside you if you have existing goals that you want to refine, or if you want to start from scratch. Everything's on the table to help support you in getting where you are in your journey today, ultimately to having a draft strategic plan. The same sort of process is understood at the enterprise risk management level. So again, it's similar to what I just showed you. It's a chat conversation with our model, with the context that it's trying to develop a risk plan. So it'll ask you a series of questions, start to identify the key risks that are relevant to your organization, and then it'll work alongside you and iterate to continue to build that list of risks or your risk register through a series of conversations or questions. Obviously, we also know that you all know kind of some of the risks you might be exposed to. So you can tell it that you want to see other risks. It'll start to put them here. And these are really, again, broad risk areas that you can then add into your risk plan. So once you add them in, you can also work alongside the tool to help brainstorm the specific risks. So it'll ask you, again, a series of questions. You'll brainstorm these risks, and then it will help you understand impact and likelihood, although that's easy to edit because you obviously have a little more context than the system does here. But ultimately, once you have those risks in place, now it's all about making sure that you've understood what are the consequences of the risks, as well as some control activities you can put in place. We do offer support here around helping to come up with some of these potential consequences. And again, this is based on what we know about your organization. And by we, I mean the system knows about your organization. So the more data you upload into that section, the smarter this gets and the more pointed the recommendations. We also encourage all of our customers to manually add if they know of the consequences here. So you can kind of work alongside the AI to either edit what's here or add your own spin on it as well. Again, you can easily adjust the impact and the likelihood, assign an owner to this in your organization. And then last but not least, think about the mitigation activities that exist here. So again, you can come up with recommended control activities, or you can develop them yourself. Right now, this is the only, this builder is what we've supported in the system from an enterprise risk management solution. Where we're headed with this is thinking more about the organizer piece of it, and then ultimately reporting and tracking on it as well. So just to go back into the deck to finish the strategic planning story, phase 4 is all about reviewing and refining your plan. So this is really where you want to validate the plan and get buy-in from your board or from your senior staff. So of course you can use Google Docs and you can historically, but Our system helps to support this review right inside the system, so you're able to see the feedback in real time and adjust it accordingly. So just to give you a feel for what that looks like, you'll see the plan review here. Again, this screen might look familiar. This was what I showed to explain what the strategic plan was. But ultimately, you come in here, you can request feedback. So you can invite people into the system. They won't see all of your information in here. You probably don't want board members in sort of the discover piece of it. We want to keep them at a higher level. They're able to kind of see all of the plan and then leave their feedback. They can highlight specific components. They can leave general feedback about any section. The goal here is really just to get their red line view of the product, so that ultimately you're able to review and edit the plan. So this allows you to see everybody's feedback in one place. You can edit the plan in real time. Anytime you save the plan anywhere in the system, it updates system-wide. So what Sophia was talking about in making sure that your plan remains flexible or agile, this makes sure that what you have in your 85-page document is the same as what you would typically have in your Excel sheet, because it all lives in one place. So this really affords you the opportunity of finalizing your plan here, and then ultimately moving on to implementing it. So I'll dive into the next phase, which I just teased, but it's really all about implementation. So a plan is great. Like Sophia said, where most plans end up failing is that they hit the point of getting board approval and then they stop. Nobody has considered, who owns each part of the plan, what are the metrics you're using to measure the success, and ultimately how you're going to revisit the plan in a cadence that is meaningful for an organization, especially in an ever-changing world. So our phase 5 and 6, we really think about as, continuing the journey of creating a culture of strategy at your organization versus just trying to get to the milestone of building a plan. So traditionally, folks would have to take their plan and start to track it manually in spreadsheets or reports. Our tool really allows you to track this all in one place. We also help with reporting, and then we have an organizational intelligence tool that helps you to understand what data is in your system. In your plan, and how you can best leverage that for fundraising or grant applications or other places where you need to activate the plan. So what this looks like in practice is what you'll see here. I'll start with the export or the publish. This part of the tool allows you to export your plan. So as you're thinking about sharing this with board members or funders or donors, you can come into the system, select which components of your plan you want to include. Maybe the timeline's in the title, so you don't want it explicitly stated, or you want to skip goal 1 when you're sharing it with a certain funder. Ultimately, you can select that. You can add light branding into the system. So you'll see our fake nonprofit here. We have some fake cover photos as well as a title color. And then last but not least, you can export it as a PDF, a PowerPoint, a Word doc, or create a shareable web link. So this allows you to share your plan on your website. Our strategic plan is on our website. In the About tab, we use our own system, obviously. So it's a really great way of communicating your plan either internally or externally. And the other part of implementation is really the strategic plan tracker. So that's what you'll see here on your screen. All of the goals and metrics that you define as part of your plan or that you drafted and finalized land here. At the objective level, we then ask all of you to come in and start to think about the status. Usually when you're starting, it's not started. You can assign an owner, so you can add as many users as you'd like into the system. We don't think about charging by seat. It's really at the plan level. You can think about the priority. So how important is this to the success of your plan? The start date, the end date, and ultimately the metrics. So how are you going to measure the success of the objective? All of this is you can manually input. We also have a tool that helps to support you creating the timeline and the objectives. So if you're having trouble thinking about how you might measure a certain part, you can work alongside our AI to help go back and forth and really think about how you might measure the success here. And then last but not least, below objectives live tactics. So these are the kind of key steps along the way that help you to accomplish the objective. Again, the same things. You can assign a user, you can do a start and end date, and then ultimately have metrics that are relevant to the tactics if you're getting to that level. And then thanks, Christine. That's really sweet. And then last but not least is the plan level metrics. So this allows you to start to identify metrics that might sit at the broadest level of your organization. So people served, dollars raised, volunteers recruited, et cetera. Kind of those key piece metrics that might be relevant to a lot of goals in the plan can sit at the very top, and you're able to track those over time. You can set a goal, and then you can start to really keep track of your progress here. And all of that data is then reflected on the dashboard here. So the last phase, which I won't pull up the slide because it's not too exciting, but it's all about monitoring and adapting your plan. So the dashboard and our PlanPerfect Advisor tool is really how we support this. The goal here is to not just create a plan and track it as a stagnant document, but really spend time learning from the efforts that you've launched as part of your plan and adjusting your plan accordingly. So like Sophia said, maybe it's creating one plan or one bulk of goals and objectives, and then revisiting those year over year to adjust them depending on how your organization has grown or changed. So again, from the tracking tab lives the dashboard. At the top of the tracker here, we really identify each of the objectives and their status. So you can get an overview of how the plan is progressing overall. You then can add notes here. So this provides you just a qualitative overview of how your plan is progressing. You'll see this button here too that says View Shareable Dashboard. This allows you to create a shareable link. So you could imagine sharing this with your board as an update on your strategic plan. You could imagine pulling this up at a staff meeting. There's a lot of uses here, but really these notes are your ability to kind of give the color that lies outside of just the numbers here. All of those plan level metrics that we talked about identifying all live at the top of the plan here. These are, again, typically what a board might ask about or might be thinking about. So you can see that you kind of can put these right out up front, and then you're able to see the growth or the change over time based on the data that you input in the system. And then last but not least are all the goals and objectives. So you might imagine coming into the system and seeing that there's an objective that is behind. You can then open up this view of it, understand why it's behind, see which objective it is, understand the progress against the metric that you identified in the plan, and then last but not least, have a very clear way of viewing how the delay might influence your overall timeline of the strategic plan. The last part about the dashboard that's nice, and apologies for these empty goals, is the ability to add an attachment. So in this case, you're able to upload an attachment to your dashboard. Then if you share it, users will have access to those attachments. So if there's documents that are relevant to your plan or a specific meeting, you can add those there, and then ultimately give access to anyone who has access to the link that you've created. And then finally, that's sort of the strategic planning and enterprise risk management views. The last part of our system is really our PlanPerfect Advisor. Oh, did you say something, Sophia? Sorry.
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. Perfect. One time I did a demo and my audio went on mute and I kept talking and no one could stop me. So I just wanted to make sure it didn't happen again.
We're all
But it
good.
sounds
We're
like
all good.
we're
Yeah.
good. So the last part here is the PlanPerfect Advisor. So this is really your access to the model that we've created in the backend. You can think of this as your sort of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, but it's specific to our models. It's again for nonprofits, and also on your specific data. Again, all of the data is securely housed in our system, but it allows you to access your data using natural language or querying here. Right now, it's a generalist sort of thought partner. We are actively thinking about other advisors that might be more specialized that we can launch. So those might look like something that could help you with grant writing or coming up with fundraising plans, or really thinking more in depth about finances. But ultimately, the idea here is that this is supposed to increase the capacity of what you can do based on all of the data that lives in your strategic plan. So some examples of how our customers use this today. One is, can you please write me a summary of our plan for a major donor who's really interested in elderly care? So this will fine tune your plan towards this donor who might have a specific view. You can ask it, please write me a summary of my plan since October 2025 for my board. I hope you're having more frequent board meetings than every 6 months or every 4 months, maybe is a more appropriate one. But essentially, what this is doing is pulling in all the data that it knows about your organization and helping to come up with these different components. You can also ask it questions like, I'm applying to this grant and there's a question about this. Can you please write me a response? There's really an endless sort of multitude of things that you could consider doing here. And we're really thinking about, again, creating more specialized robots or specialized bots that really help to increase your capacity or do some of the work behind the scenes so that the learning or the prompting doesn't all sit with you. But we did want to, it is our way of offering access to the data and the information in a meaningful way. So that you're able to quickly query and understand your own strategic plan. That's the bulk of the demo. Now we're really into our Q&A, and I'm sad that we can't see all of you because this is usually the most fun part of the demo. But I will turn it over to the floor. You can either use the Q&A function in Zoom or the webinar chat if you have any specific questions about either our product, the process, or really anything else that you're curious about.
Okay, so there are a couple of things. First, I think I want to go back to something that you said, Adam, and I think it would be helpful to create a distinction for our audience in terms of, I heard you say, and please correct me if I misunderstood you, when an organization utilizes your software as opposed to a consultant, there is a way for them to save money by doing that. I think it's important just to explain to the group what the distinction is between what you provide and what a consultant would provide, because I do think that there's sometimes some confusion around that.
Sophia, do you want to take this one? I feel like you're more
Yeah, and
eloquent in
that's
speaking.
right. That's what I was trying to refer to when we were talking about the planning to plan, is that we see that some of the money that can be saved in the strategic planning process can be used in ongoing engagement with consultants. So, as I mentioned before, I find that consultants are superb and have their absolute role in this process, and we love working with consultants. Some of the consultants we've been working with, though, have found that having our dashboard and our process has been really helpful to them, because then they can lean in as with their expertise in coaching, in philanthropy consulting or management governance consulting, and not spend their day like typing things into Excel spreadsheets. So that the combination of the two is great. And then oftentimes, and I actually did a presentation this morning with the consultants in front of an AFP group, in that he feels that he's now able to spend much more of his time doing meaningful work now that he uses PlanPerfect with his clients, and work that really fuels his soul. And that then he feels as well that he can actually make a much more consistent revenue over time, because it's not just these ebbs and flows of making a plan and then not making a plan, but more he can go on retainer and help the organizations then implement their plans. So does that help?
Yes, thank you. And I think that's a really great point that you are bringing to light, because it's so easy to get lost in the weeds. And then you're not doing, as a consultant, you're not doing the work that that high level strategic work you were actually hired to do. So, just going through this with you today, it's an incredible tool. I can see how it can be used. I just wanted to make sure that there was clarity for the audience if anybody was wondering that.
Yeah, definitely room for both. And then a lot of consultants we also work with have moved into, as well as coaching, executive coaching, or coaching a board and executive director relationship, and really getting into those finer points that technology can't solve.
Thank you. I didn't see another question, so if I could ask another question that I had jotted down here, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, I think, and I'm an executive director, so I'm going to speak from that role right now. A lot of executive directors and staff members are often kind of put up against the challenge of how do you keep your board members engaged between meetings, right? And how do we keep them by using a tool like this? How do we keep everybody accountable for whatever it is they committed to in this plan? Do you have any recommendations how our audience could use this tool to keep them on track, or just things that you have learned working with a number of different organizations, board members? What you see is something that's kind of like a trick of the trade.
Yeah, I think I hate to say it depends, but I think it depends a little bit on the organization and how involved the board is in actually operating the organization versus more of overseeing the organization. So we have some organizations where they actually add the board members as users and they tag them to the to-dos in the system, and the system will send ongoing, reminders and information just to keep everyone on track. And it becomes a really nice space for people who commit to some of their actions to actually be followed up on or at least exposed within the dashboard or within the conversation overall. For boards that are more at a high level, it's atypical that we let all the board members into the system for, I'm sure, reasons that you could probably understand, Allison, as an executive director. So the dashboard or maybe just keeping the notes really operates as a great place to not only keep the board engaged and on track, but also to prove to the board that you have a handle on the strategic plan and that it's continuing to move forward and you're executing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I know we had an hour, but I am certain all of you are probably quite busy, so I'm happy to to also wrap this up early, unless there's any other final questions while I pull up our final slide here. Like Allison said, I think all of you will get the recording, and we'll reach out to you as well. But I did just want to just offer these two QR codes. If you want to learn more about us, the one on the right gives you an overview of our system and directs you to our website where we have video demos and a ton of resources free for organizations to learn more about us, but most importantly, to help them execute their strategies. And then if you want to see another demo or maybe a more in-depth demo on the left, you can book a demo with Sophia and I. We're happy to show you the system, or if you have any other specific questions, we can kind of deep dive into the parts that we just skimmed over today. But really, these are the two avenues to getting in touch with us, and we'd love to hear from any of you, whether you're having trouble executing a current plan or you're interested in building a strategic plan or enterprise risk management plan. We've worked with organizations of all different sizes at multiple times throughout their journey, and we really love our clients and love our work. So this is the best way to get a hold of us. And then last,
Do you guys encourage having a board member attend these demos with the executive director or somebody from staff? Because I think that is really helpful when a board member is able to kind of see what's going on. But I don't know what's typical for you.
We see both. We see
yeah.
board members coming by themselves. We see executive directors coming by themselves. We see people coming together. We see boards coming together. I really feel that since at the end of the day, the fiduciary responsibility for strategic planning rests with the board, and yet the implementation of the plan rests with the executive director, that partnership is so important, that coming together is great, but one can come and then the other one can follow along. We like working with both.
But ideally, it would be great to have two representatives from both sides, so you can
Yes,
really they can get the most out of that time with you.
I think so. And then also it makes the approval process quicker as
Sure.
well, so that the
Excellent.
executive director isn't taking it then to the board, and then the board needs to see it, and then the board comes back. And so, in the sake of efficiency, oftentimes coming together works really well.
Yeah.
Thank
But we're
you.
more than willing to have multiple meetings. So if you want to
Yeah,
start and then bring it to your
exactly.
board, we'll talk to the boards. We've talked to all
Yeah.
sorts of combinations of all of the above.
Right.
But yeah, you're right in your thinking, Allison.
Yeah, and also bringing the consultant. So we've worked with organizations that have already hired a consultant for in-person facilitation, which is a terrific way to use a consultant. And so we've had an organization that actually decided to work with us, has a consultant and the board and the executive director, and then the board was not at the meeting but engaged. So that it was no one was feeling like their territory was being infringed upon.
Mhm. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Well, the last piece here is just thanking everyone on the line. Thank you all so much for joining and being engaged, and Allison and the Nonprofit Resource Hub for hosting us. We always love this time with you all and together. So just really deeply thank all of you for being willing to listen to us and watching our demo. Feel free to reach out. We're really passionate about helping nonprofits operate more efficiently so that they can increase their impact and really help to navigate this ever changing world.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for your time and sharing your demo with us and your knowledge and wisdom. And I would encourage those who are with us today and those who will be watching our recordings to please reach out to Sophia and Adam and get book a demo with them, ideally with a board member if possible. This way, you can really kind of do a deeper dive and they can answer more of your questions in real time. And you are always able to get in touch with them either directly or through us or through LinkedIn. They're incredibly active on LinkedIn, so you will see them there, link in with them, and they're always sharing really great information. So thank you both so much. For those of you that are not yet nonprofit partners with the Nonprofit Resource Hub, what are you waiting for? Go online today. It is free to join for a nonprofit, and you get to experience and take advantage of wonderful opportunities like this and much, much more. If there is a desire for a follow-up and you guys want to follow up, write in and we'll certainly reach out to Sophia and Adam and see what we can do. And any final closing words, Sophia? No. Okay,
Nope,
great.
just
Adam?
go out, go forth and fulfill your mission. That's why we're here to help you do that.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, well, everybody have a wonderful day and please stay in touch and let us know if we can help connect you.